What happened in Westminster today was not supposed to happen. Not ever. Not in modern Britain. At precisely 2:15 p.m, a line was crossed that had held for nearly 2 centuries, and the consequences were immediate, brutal, and historic. Parliament didn't just react, it erupted. 8 words, that's all it took. Behind the polished doors of Clarence House, Prince William, future King of the United Kingdom, came face to face with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. This was not ceremonial. This was not symbolic. This was an emergency meeting triggered by a leaked Labour proposal so explosive it sent shockwaves through Whitehall before MPs even saw it.
Before we go any further, let me ask you something. If you care about what's really happening in British politics behind the headlines, beyond the spin, then please take just 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the Britain Daily. It's completely free and it helps us keep bringing you the hard-hitting stories that matter.
3 days earlier, at 9:47 a.m, Starmer unveiled his new immigration integration bill during a closed-door Labour strategy session. The contents stunned even senior figures in the room. Mandatory diversity quotas for British businesses, compulsory cultural compliance programmes in schools, and a powerful new oversight committee able to fine companies up to £500,000 for failing to meet immigration hiring targets. Word leaked fast, and when it didn't just reach Parliament, it reached the palace. Within 3 hours, Prince William demanded a private meeting with the Prime Minister. No press, no cameras, just 3 senior constitutional advisers and a silence described by insiders as Arctic. Then William spoke. Prime Minister, this bill attacks the very fabric of British sovereignty and merit. According to palace sources, Starmer bristled. He stood abruptly, chair scraping across the floor, and fired back. Constitutional monarchy means you don't get a vote on policy. That should have ended it. It didn't. Prince William leaned forward and delivered 8 words that would detonate across British politics. Then perhaps Parliament needs reminding who they serve. Within hours, the unthinkable happened. Buckingham Palace authorised a public statement, read live on BBC News, interrupting scheduled programming. The wording was surgical, restrained, and devastating. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, expresses deep concern regarding proposed legislation that may fundamentally alter the character of British institutions and disadvantage citizens based on nationality of birth. No hedging, no private briefing, a direct public challenge to a sitting Prime Minister. Constitutional scholars immediately sounded the alarm. One Cambridge professor called it constitutional dynamite, the most direct royal intervention since 1936. MPS flooded the Commons chamber. Ministers scrambled for statements, phones lit up across Westminster, and when Parliament reconvened, the atmosphere was pure chaos. Labour MPS shouted across the aisle. Opposition benches roared. The Speaker repeatedly called for order and failed. Starmer sat stone-faced, pale, isolated, while whispers of resignations began spreading through the chamber. This wasn't just a policy dispute anymore. This was a collision between Crown and government, and Britain could already feel it. By nightfall, the crisis had escaped Westminster and spilled into the streets, the airwaves, and the markets. What began as a tense confrontation between Prince William and Keir Starmer had now become a national reckoning. At 6:02 p.m, the pound dipped sharply. Traders cited constitutional uncertainty and political instability at the highest level. It was the first time in years that royal intervention, real or perceived, had rattled the markets. Within minutes, Starmer's office was flooded with calls from business leaders demanding reassurance that Britain was still governable. They didn't get it. Across the country, veterans groups were the first to react. The Royal British Legion issued an unusually blunt statement, warning that any legislation that prioritises identity over service and merit risked breaking the moral contract between the state and its citizens. Within hours, that message was shared hundreds of thousands of times. Then came the polling shock. An overnight YouGov Snap poll showed Labour's support collapsing by 9 points in a single evening. Reform UK surged, the Conservatives stabilised. But most alarming for Downing Street was a new category climbing rapidly: undecided and angry. Inside Labour, panic took hold. At 8:30 p.m, 3 backbench MPs confirmed they would not support the immigration integration bill in its current form. By 9:15, that number had doubled. A senior Labour whip was overheard saying, "We've lost control of this. The palace has made it radioactive." Cabinet unity fractured in real time. One junior minister resigned quietly, citing irreconcilable concerns. 2 others reportedly refused to appear on morning broadcast rounds. Angela Rayner cancelled a scheduled event without explanation, fueling rumours of a looming leadership manoeuvre. Meanwhile, the palace stayed silent. That silence spoke volumes. Constitutional experts flooded television studios. One former Supreme Court justice warned that Starmer had misread the limits of political authority in a constitutional monarchy. Another compared the situation to the early days of the abdication crisis, when government arrogance collided with royal legitimacy. Outside Parliament, protesters gathered spontaneously. Some waved Union flags, others held signs reading "Merit over mandates" and "The Crown warned you." Chants echoed through Whitehall late into the night. Starmer finally emerged at 10:47 p.m, delivering a short, defensive statement from Downing Street. He insisted the bill was about fairness and inclusion, and dismissed royal concerns as misinterpretation. It made things worse. Social media erupted. Clips of his remarks were ratioed into oblivion. Commentators accused him of arrogance, tone deafness, and, most dangerously, of challenging the moral authority of the monarchy itself. By midnight, one truth was undeniable. Keir Starmer was no longer in control of the narrative. Britain was choosing sides, and the Prime Minister was standing alone. The following morning, Westminster felt different. Quieter. Tenser. MPs arrived early, speaking in hushed voices, checking their phones before even entering the chamber. Everyone knew something was coming. Few realised how final it would feel. At 11:31 a.m, the Speaker rose. Sir Lindsay Hoyle's voice cut through the Commons with unmistakable gravity. He reminded the House, slowly, deliberately, that Parliament derives its authority from the people, but its legitimacy survives only through restraint, respect, and constitutional balance. Then came the line that changed everything. No Prime Minister, no matter how large their majority, can govern as if institutions beyond this House do not matter. The chamber froze. Hoyle did not name Keir Starmer. He didn't need to. Every eye turned to the government benches. Starmer stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, hands locked together. For the first time since entering Downing Street, he looked like a man realising the ground beneath him was no longer solid. What followed was unprecedented. A cross-party amendment was tabled, quietly, efficiently, calling for the suspension of the immigration integration bill pending full constitutional review. It was signed not only by Conservatives and Reform MPs, but by 9 Labour backbenchers. 9 became 12, then 15. Whips scrambled, phones buzzed. A senior aide was seen leaving the chamber in tears. When the vote was finally called, the result landed like a hammer blow. The government was defeated. Gasps echoed across the Commons. This wasn't just a lost vote. It was a signal, a declaration that Starmer's authority, once unquestioned, had fractured. Commentators were already calling it the most significant Commons rebellion against a sitting Prime Minister in over a decade. Within hours, the consequences multiplied. A leaked memo revealed Treasury officials were preparing emergency briefings for international investors. Another leak suggested senior civil servants were seeking clarity on how future legislation would be handled in light of royal sensitivities. Then came the final humiliation. At 4:18 p.m, Buckingham Palace released a single, carefully worded sentence. His Majesty remains committed to the constitutional principles that have safeguarded this nation for generations. Nothing more, nothing less. It was devastating. Every newspaper led with it. Every broadcaster dissected it. The message was unmistakable. The Crown had not backed down, and neither had the country. By evening, senior Labour figures were openly discussing leadership timelines. Phrases like managed transition and protecting the party crept into conversations once considered unthinkable. One veteran MP summed it up bluntly. He crossed a line he didn't see, and now he can't uncross it. Keir Starmer did not resign that day, but power doesn't always leave with an announcement. Sometimes it drains away quietly, in lost votes, in empty benches, in silence where authority once lived. And by the time Britain went to sleep that night, one question hung over Westminster like a storm cloud. How long can a Prime Minister last after the country stops listening? This wasn't just another political scandal. It was the moment Britain's balance of power shifted, and nothing that follows will be the same.